alcohol was the most harmful drug in the UK. And when you look at the reasons for that, you see it's because the social harms of alcohol are so enormous. The harms due to health costs, due to road traffic accidents, due to violence in the streets, domestic violence, those are the ones that make alcohol in the UK the most harmful drug. What I've discovered was that the government did not want that message. As I was promoting this rational approach, the politicians were saying, hang on, this cuts right against the way we want to portray the world. And eventually they got irritated with me and sacked me.
Alcohol lies to us. Alcohol causes damage in the brain. Even a little bit of alcohol causes damage in the brain. It disrupts something called white matter. So gray matter, nerve cell bodies, white matter, nerve cell tracts. So white matter is the highways in your brain that transmit information and impulses. And even a little bit of alcohol has been shown to disrupt the white matter in your brain. The American Cancer Society came out and said any alcohol increases your risk of 7 different types of cancer. And I've been talking about this for 30 years because I have scans. And people who drink any alcohol have lower activity than people who don't drink at all. Alcohol will decrease heart rate variability and brain function. And if it decreases brain function, it decreases decision making. As a psychiatrist, 30%, 40% of the people I see, they initially come to my office because it's somehow alcohol related. Fight with their spouse, problems with their kids, whatever.
Because of the structure of alcohol, it is what's called both water soluble and fat soluble. Translated into what's meaningful for you, what that means is when you drink alcohol, it can pass into all the cells and tissues of your body. It has no trouble just passing right into those cells. So unlike a lot of substances and drugs that actually attach to the surface of cells, to receptors as they're called, little parking spots, and then trigger a bunch of downstreams like domino cascades of effects, alcohol actually has its own direct effects on cells because it can really just pass into those cells. So it's water and fat soluble, and the fact that it can pass into so many organs and cells so easily is really what explains its damaging effects. I should mention that there are 3 main types of alcohol. There's isopropyl, methyl, and ethyl alcohol, and only the last one, ethyl alcohol or ethanol, is fit for human consumption. However, it is still toxic, okay? It produces substantial stress and damage to cells. I'd love to be able to tell you otherwise, but that's just a fact. Ethanol produces substantial damage to cells. And it does that because when you ingest ethanol, it has to be converted into something else because it is toxic to the body. And there's a molecule inside of all of us called NAD. But nonetheless, when you ingest ethanol, NAD and related biochemical pathways are involved in converting that ethanol into something called acetaldehyde. It's broken down into acetaldehyde. And if you thought ethanol was bad, acetaldehyde is particularly bad. Acetaldehyde is poison. It will kill cells. It damages and kills cells, and it is indiscriminate as to which cells it damages and kills.
Any amount of alcohol is associated with an increased cancer risk. And that's a really important thing to know, especially if someone has a personal family history of cancer. Breast cancer is one that's strongly associated with alcohol use. And
Wow.
so factoring that in as you're making your decisions about alcohol is really important. If you take breast cancer, things that seem to increase hormone levels are often associated with a risk of cancer. So I think that's an area of active research to understand why alcohol and breast cancer in particular are so closely linked. Other types of cancer, it's a little more clear. They tend to be cancers of the liver or the gut that are strongly associated with alcohol. And that makes sense if you think of alcohol as a potential poison going into your gut, being metabolized by your liver, causing changes there. That's an area that we do see a lot of cancer risks. One of the main health harms from alcohol, especially heavy alcohol use, is liver damage. And so what we see happen is this progression where the first thing that happens is inflammation of the liver. And when your liver gets inflamed, you start getting fat deposit in the liver. So the first kind of step is what we sometimes call fatty liver. So it's fat deposition in your liver. That actually can totally reverse if you stop drinking or you make changes. And that's the amazing thing with the liver. It's a really regenerative organ. So you could cut 80% of someone's liver out and they would be okay. But there is a point where you cross a threshold where you you can no longer repair the damage. And that's when you get to a stage called cirrhosis. So from fat deposition, then you start getting scarring. Your body lays down all this scar tissue because of the chronic inflammation in your liver. And when your liver becomes so scarred that it's really stiff and starts not functioning well, that's cirrhosis. Between 2010 and 2020, there's been a significant increase in alcohol-related liver failure, especially amongst women and younger people. And even just after the onset of COVID, we saw somewhere around a 25% increase in alcohol-related death after the onset of the pandemic. So the pandemic was hard for many reasons, but it certainly increased alcohol use across the country, and with that, liver disease and liver failure.
With alcohol is that it fragments your sleep, and we spoke about the quality of your sleep being just as important as the quantity. And alcohol, through a variety of mechanisms, some of which are activation of that autonomic nervous system, that fight or flight branch of the nervous system, alcohol will actually have you waking up many more times throughout the night, so your sleep is far less continuous. Now, some of those awakenings will be of conscious recollection the next day. You'll just remember waking up. Many of them won't be, but yet your sleep will be littered with these sort of punctured awakenings throughout the night. And again, when you wake up the next morning, you don't feel restored by your sleep. Fragmented sleep or non-continuous sleep in this alcohol-induced way is usually not good quality sleep that you feel great on the next day. Alcohol, in terms of an equation, is that it's quite potent at blocking your REM sleep, your rapid eye movement sleep. And REM sleep is critical for a variety of cognitive functions, some aspects of learning and memory. It seems to be critical for aspects of emotional and mental health. Alcohol, if we're thinking about classes of drugs, they're in a class of drugs that we call the sedatives. And I think one of the first problems that people often mistake, alcohol is often used as a sleep aid for people who are struggling with sleep when things like over-the-counter remedies, etc., or herbal remedies have just not worked out for them. And alcohol, unfortunately, is anything but a sleep aid. What it's really doing is trying to essentially knock out your cortex. It's sedating your cortex. And sedation is not sleep. But when we have a couple of drinks in the evening, when we have a couple of nightcaps, we mistake sedation for sleep, saying, well, I always, when I have a couple of whiskeys or a couple of cocktails, it always helps me fall asleep faster. In truth, what's happening is that you're losing consciousness quicker, but you're not necessarily falling naturalistically asleep any quicker.
The journey begins with a departure from home, interestingly. Whatever home is, you have to leave. You have to leave the familiar, the place that you are familiar with. Often this is induced by crisis, a crisis that you cannot avoid or delay or defer. A crisis of some kind may come. Of course, this can be an inner crisis, a moment of despair. Often a psychic breakdown can precipitate change, transition, awakening.
Your excuses will destroy you and take everything that you ever wanted from you if you let them. It's definitely not a friend. It can seem like a friend, just like your friend that keeps feeding you drinks at the bar can seem like a friend, but are they really helping you in any way, shape, or form? No, they're not. When your excuses make you feel a little bit better about the fact that you didn't execute on what you needed to execute on, then they can make you feel better, but they're not helping you. They're not helping you at all.
Are excuses the opposite? Excuses and blame, is that the opposite of extreme ownership?
That is the opposite of extreme ownership. Extreme ownership is, this went wrong, this failed, didn't accomplish this, and it's not the fault of my boss, it's not the fault of my girlfriend, it's not the fault of my parents, it's not the fault of the weather, it's my fault. And I'm gonna take ownership of it, and I'm gonna fix it. That's what extreme ownership is. And this is a very difficult thing to do because it hurts. Because when you look around at your life and you look around at your job and your financial situation and your relationship and your physical health, and when you look at all those things and all the problems that you may have with those things, and you say, the reason I have all of those problems is because of me, that can hurt, that can sting. And a lot of times our ego rejects that and makes excuses and lies. And then we don't have to change anything. And then nothing changes. It's rock bottom. Right? This is a term that we hear for someone that's addicted, someone that's an alcoholic, someone that's physically let themselves go, someone that's put themselves into a situation with their finances or their work or whatever, where they reach rock bottom. When the excuses all go away and people can actually confront the fact that this is all because of me, it hurts, but is also unbelievably empowering. Because if these problems are because of me, then I'm capable of fixing these problems. So even though extreme ownership hurts and is painful, it's also liberating because now you have control over your fate and over your destiny, and that is a glorious thing.
It seems that our threshold for what we call moderate or low amounts of drinking is shifting nowadays. Here's what I do know. The data say that 0 to 2 drinks per week, you're probably fine, provided you're not an alcoholic and you're of age, okay? And you're not pregnant. 0 to 2 drinks per week. Now, what happens past 2 drinks per week depends on a lot of other contextual factors, okay? First of all, how well or poorly you metabolize alcohol, how much alcohol dehydrogenase you tend to express. Why do I say that? Well, a lot of the so-called negative effects of alcohol are due to disruptions in sleep and gut microbiome. So those are indirect, right? Alcohol is changing for the worse the gut microbiome and sleep patterns. We know this. People that track their sleep, they have 1 drink and they're like, holy cow, my sleep is so much worse. Not just sleep score, but amount of REM sleep, amount of deep sleep, et cetera. So then should we set the threshold at 3 drinks per week or 4 drinks per week? I don't know, and I'm not here to say that one way or the other. What I'm saying is my read of the data is that 0 is better than any.